Hey everybody, it's Sophie here and Marco dishing it out on The Alienist, episode 3, called Silver Smile. FYI, Silver Smile is possibly a clue to the killer's identity. Last week we did not reveal the final scene of the episode because we thought you might want to see it yourself. But here's what happened because it leads into today's episode. John Moore, the New York Times illustrator, decided on his own to find some answers about the crime. He locates a brothel/bar by noticing a pair of black children-sized boots in the, quote, bad part of town hanging off a sign, a signal to others of a boys' brothel, perhaps? After John asked the manager-owner about Giorgio Santarelli, the murdered boy, he slips John a Mickey when his back is turned, causing him to instantly feel dizzy. Sally, one of the boy prostitutes, leads Moore back to a room, but Moore only wants info, nothing else. He pays Sally $5 for info about Giorgio. By this time, Moore is struggling to stand. Sally ends up robbing him of his wallet. In episode 3, Moore wakes up at Dr. K's Chrysler's place, and the rest of the team is there too. Remember that Dr. K had told Stevie, his employee, to follow Moore because he had been drinking that night. Stevie found him in an alleyway without his pants on, and he and Cyrus, the African-American man who also works for Dr. K, takes him back to the doctor's place. But this isn't the first scene of the episode. I wanted to watch it again, but they have not put it on today. But I was late in getting in here to watch it, but there was a well-dressed man and a woman wearing a humongous hat and a dark dress sitting at a table eating a meal. The man had his head bent, and I don't know who those people are. Could he be the killer? I don't know. But the next scene was Moore at Dr. K's place. Okay. Well, this place that Moore was taken to that Dr. K owned was a place with, quote, no ears, said Dr. K, so nobody will hear what they say about the investigation. The team is all there, like I said, and it is composed of the Isaacson brothers, Lucius and Marcus, the two forensic scientists. I call them that, but that's not their title, actually, from the police station. Moore, Dr. Chrysler, and Miss Howard. Dr. K wonders if there might be fingerprints on the body because of all the blood. He tells the Isaacson brothers to go to the morgue to find out. Meanwhile, we see an indoor pool. All these young teenage boys are swimming naked. A cop tells one of them to get out, and we see a pair of eyes peering at them from behind a door or window. Are the corrupt cops complicit with the serial killer in exchange for a few extra dollars? When the Isaacson brothers go to the morgue, Giorgio's body is missing. Ms. Howard decides to tell Roosevelt, or I should say Miss Howard, the commissioner, that their investigation must continue, but they must keep it quiet because while they are doing it, there's so much corruption within the department that could interfere with it or be closed down altogether. Thank God there were no sex scenes in this episode. It was actually a very good episode, and the reason why I say this, because at the very least, the one in the last episode between Marcus Isaacson and a girl from the socialist meeting he goes to, it seemed forced, unnecessary, and out of place. Originally, I had thought it was more again, because he's got some kind of problem with that. They talk about it, seeing prostitutes every night, but I was mistaken. So anyway, after their meeting, the group's meeting, we see Moore going home, and his mom has been worried about him. We discover some backstory about him. His brother recently died at sea. Number 2, his fiancée dumped him. And 3, his father disapproves of his work and or himself. This may be the reason he looks for prostitutes every night, because of his unhappiness. After everyone leaves, Dr. Chrysler asks Cyrus what it feels like to kill someone. From doing research, he can't find out that information. He is trying to get inside the mind of the killer. Okay, Marco, why don't you talk now about them, what
oh no!
Moore and Dr. K
Oh
did.
no! There's another body discovered.
Well, wait a minute.
Oh no!
First they go see Sally, the male child prostitute,
Oh yeah.
to get more information.
They go see them, and
What did they find out? Do you remember?
that it's important that the victim went on their free will because they trusted him, and so that's important.
Well, what happened was when Giorgio went back to the room with his, they called him, they called his, I don't know what you want to call it, the guy who was seeing him, Giorgio was his pet. And he preferred Giorgio over everybody. And when they went back to the room, because it was quiet, nobody answered, and they went back there several times, and finally they broke the lock to the room, and Giorgio and his benefactor, or whatever you want to call it, they were not even in there. They were gone. So he gives them information about the killer, that it's a special person, and they did say the thing about the silver smile, that he had a silver smile. Okay, now, Go ahead.
Okay.
So
then there's another body discovered, and they go to the other body, and they're the first ones there. Roosevelt has to protect them from being found out by the other police. And so, I think they fail trying to get a fingerprint because there's no light, but then Miss Howard discovers that the killer is attracted to water and heights, and then that they're forced to leave is really stressful because there's an informant, and the artist ends up leaving behind his notebook, and the killer somehow gets his notebook.
And they show the killer looking at it at the very end of the episode. They don't show his face. Yeah. They show him wearing gloves.
And he's angry.
Looking through it, yeah. He's angrily flipping the pages. And when it's really interesting, when this whole group goes, Miss Howard, the two forensic Isaacson boys, Dr. Chrysler, and John Moore, they all go there, and Cyrus is driving, and Stevie is with them. Stevie is the boy who works for Dr. Chrysler, and Stevie and Cyrus have to watch for the bad cops. And when they come, there's like 20 of them, and they're with this retired commissioner who is played by the same actor who played the serial killer on Silence of the Lambs, which is really weird. And it was funny because I think Roosevelt said, "I sure see you a lot. I see you a lot more now, and you're retired or something." He said a real funny thing, and the and I was wondering. I just said a while ago, are the cops in on this serial killer? Do they know who it is? At least some of them, because they're taking kickbacks from them, and they don't care about these boys because they're prostitutes. I don't know, but the corrupt commissioner says, "Why can't this fiend do his work at a more reasonable hour?" So,
Alright, so, and then stuff happens after that. They go back to Chrysler's house, but I won't get into that because I've already given away most of the episode, so you go watch that yourself. I personally think this episode has been the best, and I actually looked it up, and it was a different writer than the last 2 weeks, and so I guess the writer from last 2 weeks, he loves to have sex scenes for no reason, and so this episode was great. This is the only episode so far I would give an A.
okay, well, last time I talked about corsets, and I wanted to tell you that the commissioner it was Theodore Roosevelt, the president, later on in life, Jr. And what happened was in 1895, because this story takes place in 1896, he moved back to New York City and became president of the New York City Board of Police Commissioners. And in this story, he has a good friend who's an illustrator, and that's John Moore. They go to Harvard together, and Dr. Chrysler went to Harvard. Well, in real life, he had a good friend named Jacob Rice, a newspaper reporter who helps him uncover the police corruption, which is really bad. Unfortunately, his effort at ridding the police force of corruption did not always go as planned, and sometimes he angered everyone, not just cops taking bribes. For example, New Yorkers at that time worked 6 days a week and liked to go to the bar on Sunday, and that was their only day off. And Roosevelt decided to close the bars down on Sunday. They actually mention this in the episode. No matter the limited success of Roosevelt's fight against police corruption at this time, he is still remembered fondly and respectfully for his efforts to rid the city of it. So I just thought you might want to hear a little backstory about that. But in this episode, it seems like we got more of a backstory on John Moore, and maybe there's a little bit about Mary, who is the housekeeper for Dr. Chrysler, and Cyrus, the African American guy. There's some about him, and there was already some about Miss Howard, and they talk about it a little bit more. And so we're going to be doing, remember, this is February now, and it's Relationship Month, and we are going to be doing reviewing movies with relationships. For example, I'm not talking just about like a love relationship, about any kind of relationship. And the first review we're going to do will be Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Okay? So I hope you tune in to hear our review of that movie and the next episode of The Alienist.
And also, this episode showed the killer, showed his full upper body at one point in his own apartment or whatever it was, looking at a portrait of somebody, a hand-drawn portrait, and we didn't realize that this was 21 or whatever episodes, because I looked it up on IMDb, and I could only see 10 episodes. So what I'm thinking with that is that maybe they're gonna like take a break and it's gonna come back in the fall. Like, I'm not sure, because it said it was ending in March, and then Safi looked it up and said it had 21 episodes. So, however long it is, now I can see the first 2 episodes why they were so slow. Because if this was 10 episodes, I would be like, God, why are they moving so slow? Like, why is everything so? It just wasn't going fast enough for me, and now I can see why. Because usually there are a lot of TV shows nowadays, and they jump on the bandwagon of doing 13 episodes or 10 episodes, and they like shove everything together. There's not really much development, but with this, I can see they're going for the long-ended form of storytelling.
I did want to add too, they had an extra at the end of the episode, and I thought maybe they had extras at the other two, but I don't think so. I did look at the end of episode 2. I didn't see any extra, but it was just an explanation of their feelings, of certain characters' feelings. And it's not anything new. It's just kind of a confirmation of what you already might feel about them. And then there was also a fashion extra, which you can watch, and it talks about the people who do the wardrobe, and they talk about John Moore, how he's wealthy, and he doesn't just wear beautiful, nice looking clothes. They're actually kind of there's an extra spice to them. I can't think of a better word for it. They're not just so strict and dark and rich, but they're special. They have patterns and designs on them, and the doctor, they say, is really a lot younger than than he seems, and they dress him accordingly. And then Sarah, she's wearing the fashion of the day at those big puffy sleeves, or they start up at the shoulder and go down to the elbow, and those are called mutton sleeves. And they show the wardrobe of that she will wear during the episode, and the set is like a complete town built where, let's see, where are they? Romania or no, Hungary. They're in Hungary, and they show them walking down the street, and anyway, that's just a couple of extras that you might be aware of. The one that comes at the end of this episode.
The doctor seems like he's really old.
Yeah,
like
but he's
the way
not.
They make him look. I think they kind of made a mistake with that.
Well, he's not. He's actually very young because he goes to Harvard with Roosevelt and John Moore. They're students together, so they're both actually really young in their careers. And I think he's kind of Dr. Chrysler's like a genius who hasn't really. He's been mostly involved in his work and hasn't had any girlfriends, and he's just very. He's kind of a geek, I'll put. He's a 19th century geek.
He's a geek?
Yeah, I guess so.
You're saying he's a geek?
I guess so, but he's very interesting and a very good person.
A geek wouldn't have like a slew or an army of people who
work for him.
Yeah.
Well, I think
have like an army and all this money and resources.
Well, he's wealthy. They wouldn't be able to do what they're doing unless they had the money they had. She has money. She knows John Moore because they're both from high society and they've known each other since they've been kids. And Dr. Chrysler, apparently, I mean, he has unlimited money. So they wouldn't be able to do what they couldn't even get around and go where they go without having that money. Or what they call it in the show, they call it wealth and privilege.
And she was at this party.
It was a Vassar. She went to Vassar, and it was a reunion, kind of like.
And this other old woman, she looked really old.
I don't think she was that old.
Well, she looked awful the way she was dressed. I mean, it's just horrible the way that they dress and look. They look like animals or something. Like.
Marco's exaggerating.
And she introduces him to this other younger guy, and he was like, "Hi," and I was wondering like, because like in the last episode, all it took was like a glance at somebody that was the same age, and then I thought they would have another sex scene again. And I was like, oh.
But
Thank
we were spared.
God.
We were spared.
There was a different writer who actually knew how to write a story.
Well, the thing was that this was a Vassar college reunion. Vassar it was a woman's college. I don't know if just only women go there now. I think Hillary Clinton went to Vassar. I'm not sure, so don't quote me. But what Sarah made this remark that everybody in their class was married except for her and this other girl. And this other girl says, "Oh, didn't you hear? Didn't she say she was going to marry this guy she brought with her to this whatever it was, this party?" And they were playing this really queer game about being murdered, and these girls wearing these magnificent dresses with these mutton chops and flouncy skirts and beautiful fabrics, dropping down on the floor and groaning like they'd been murdered. And here Sarah had just been, or I don't think she had been there yet, but she's going to go to this murder scene. It's anything but glamorous, with beautiful women falling down on the ground in fancy dresses. It's a horrible sight. And it's something she says, "I've seen murder before, I've seen death before, but never like this."
So, what'd you think of the episode? You didn't say anything about what you actually thought of it.
Well, I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I just thought it went really fast, and there was a lot in it, and it was interesting. And it's interesting because they're talking about the birth of all these scientific means in which to solve a crime. And when you see these shows today, police people solving crimes, everything just looks like it's always been there. But this is like when it was the very beginning, when the way they were investigating crimes, it was new, and they had to. It's like they try things, and sometimes things fail, and like they're still wearing. I mean, when you go into crime scene today, you wear booties and you make sure you don't contaminate the crime scene.
And she just steps in the blood.
She steps in the blood and said, "Watch out!"
How are they not going to notice that?
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe they don't care that when they're running from the scene because they got to go because all these Irish corrupt cops are there. I mean, they come in an onslaught of like 20 cops and wearing these long coats with their bell hats and their mustaches and beards, and this group of people are they have to leave really fast, and so I don't think they care. They just want to get rid of it, and they don't care about these boys getting killed. Not the little group of forensic people, but the Irish bad cops. So it was good, and I suggest and recommend everybody watch it. So they don't take that long. There's 3 episodes so far. So have fun. Goodbye.
Bye.